Welcome everybody. This is, what day is today? August 24th, 2015. This is the Norfolk Recreation Commission Board meeting. This meeting is being video and audio recorded. We have an agenda of about 10 items that we're going to get through pretty expeditiously, I think. We have meeting minutes from July 27th. They've been distributed to the board members. You may or may not have an opportunity to read through them. What I would like is, as we go through the meeting, to accept the minutes at the end of the meeting instead of the beginning of the meeting like we normally do, just to give you a little bit extra time to look through it if that's okay with everybody. Next item is the vouchers to be signed. Those have been sent around, and I believe Tom's finishing up on those. Third item of our meeting is the secretary position. We'd like to welcome Kathy as our new secretary. Let's round of applause for Kathy. Welcome.
Thank you.
Boy, nobody gets applause at this table. How'd that happen?
So Kathy's going to be taking over the role of secretary and helping us out with some of the administration functions that were done through the board. She'll be providing assistance with the minutes, getting the minutes out, getting the minutes posted, posting the meetings, things of that sort that she's familiar with and has a lot of knowledge. So we welcome you again. Thank you. Moving right along, CPC project updates. Tom.
CPC has not met since our last meetings.
Okay. So no updates.
Not unless Ian has heard something.
Nope, I haven't.
No.
I've been gone took vacation for 10 days, so.
Oh.
So
And I don't think I was expecting to hear anything anyway. So no, I haven't.
I know you do have a full agenda coming up.
There is a meeting tentatively set for September 2nd.
September 2nd.
They're talking about that September 2nd, let me put it that way.
Sure. Okay, this is an idea anyways. Next item, and I'll let you take this. This is security cameras and lights. Actually, I'll preface this. So we've been looking at potentially putting in security systems, whether it's cameras, lights, or what have you, in order to curtail some of the vandalisms that has occurred. We had vandalism occur at the tennis courts where somebody had spray painted the tennis courts with a bunch of stuff. I'll leave it at that. We've had incidents where soccer goals have been dismantled and damaged to the point where we've had to have outside contractors come in and weld them. We've had damage most recently, at the softball shed at Freeman School, where it looks like they tried to break into the softball snack shack with broken pots and everything else, and boards were broken. Police actually did an investigation and did a report on that as well.
That was last week? Last week,
yeah. So there's a lot of activity in Norfolk, seventh safest city in America, but we do have our problems. So in order to address some of those situations, we've been thinking of either lights that come on automatically and can be driven via either electricity or solar. We've also looked at exploring this new option, which is a vandal-proof camera that comes with the lights and works at night and all that. Has to be mounted on a system, a pole or some sort. It's not ideal locations where we're trying to cover now, so obviously we'd have to have some installation costs and things of that sort. And Ann's been doing some research on that as well, and I believe I'll let you get into some of the details.
okay, so there's quotes. So what I'm sending around now are quotes, and the last big one has information about this new system. So we started, it was close to a year ago, we started looking at putting cameras up, and we spoke to Mike Yang, and there was some issues about having a secure place for a camera because we don't have a building there, and the electronics involved would have to have ventilation, we'd be having to build a room, that kind of thing. Didn't look like it was going to work out, and it was going to be very expensive. So from there, we went to looking at a motion light, and Ron Bain got a couple of quotes on that, which are the two of the, one from Laughlin and, I'm sorry, it's right in front of me and I don't have it. So one from Laughlin Electric and one from Pacheco Cook Electrical. So the one from Laughlin has two possibilities. One is mounted on the pavilion, which would work if we had a steeper pitch roof and a higher pitch roof. I've talked to some people that have them mounted on their pavilion. I spoke to the person in Marblehead today, and they have, it's 20 feet up. So, but ours is literally, you could, someone on top of a shoulder or standing on one of the picnic tables would take out a light inside, which they do, and it's really not difficult to get on that roof if someone was determined to put out a light. And then the other option was to have a pole mounted at a standalone pole, and that is a price of $6,300. So they're LED lights, but they would use electricity, and we'd have to run the electricity. Pacheco Cook, their price for fixtures on a 20-foot pole was $14,450. And it does, and they are RAB fixtures, so RAB fixtures are very good fixtures, but I'm sure Laughlin does, I'm sure they also have very good equipment. So that is their electrical, it's LEDs, but it's run through electricity, has to be wired. So in this process, I found out about it's called Q-Star Technology. It's a flash cam, and that's what the several pages that I just handed, mostly because it's pictures and options. And this is it's a solar system. When I started reading about it, I'm like, this is almost too good to be true. Mm-hmm. It's a solar system. I think it has a 14 megapixel HD camera. If it detects motion, it has a voice-activated alarm, such as "You are breaking the park rules. You must leave now," in a voice, and tells them that. It's a bright light comes on, very bright light. It says that it can take pictures and read it. You can read a license plate at 250 feet, which is one of the issues that when I've spoken to people that have other systems, they have a problem with. They can't really, the cameras they have, such as I spoke to the person in Mendon, and he said, it's hard to see. It's really hard to see who it is. You can't really distinguish it. So I've received information. They have offered to do a demonstration online, and it was really very soon before I left for vacation. So I let them know I was coming back. We would be interested in that, but I said I'd also like to get references, and I was actually very pleased because the references were Marlborough, Massachusetts. I asked for local references. Providence, Rhode Island, who hasn't called me back yet, but I've called them. New York City. And then there was one, Salem, Mass, I haven't called Salem yet. But I thought it was a nice cross mix of references, and I was actually very pleased that there were some so local. Marlborough, I keep saying Marlborough, I mean Marblehead. So Marblehead, actually, the person that I spoke to, it was installed before he arrived, but he said just having it has made a difference. He also said, however, they've had issues with kids taking rocks from the beach and piling them on the new playground they just put in. And so, because kids, their rocks are there. And that I cannot, getting to the playground in the morning and seeing piles of rocks that have to be moved is probably not a happy moment, especially for a single person that has to do it. So he said they put in a security light there, and that has helped with that, because as soon as there's a light, there's much less of an issue. However, having this for different, and I don't know the range, and we have to find out like how panoramic the camera is for the soccer fields versus the tennis courts. But if there's a 250, if you can read a license plate at 250 feet, it certainly can cover the parking lot. So I thought that would be, and it's solar, so that's a good news too. It's not inexpensive. The starter kit is $7,600, $7,650. That includes the camera. It also includes 5 additional mounting brackets, so you can move it around. So you can put it in one place, but then if you want to put it somewhere else, you can put it somewhere else. Doesn't include any other kit to put somewhere else, but you can move it around. Sure, it's not easy to move around.
It says 2 decoys, so I'm assuming it's probably boxes similar to the
Yep.
main one, so
Yep.
that, as you're moving around,
Yeah,
you can move the decoys.
Yeah.
I'm assuming.
yeah. But I actually, I thought maybe you can move it to Freeman Kennedy. But in my me calling around, getting information, and I called, we belong to the National Recreation and Park Association, and they have a Connect forum. It's online, and so sometimes actually it's very helpful because they have people from all over the country giving input about different things. And one of them I had remembered seeing was security systems at parks, and it's amazing how many people in, no matter what state you're in, they're similar issues that everyone has. Some are very different, but some are very similar. And one person I thought, I remember reading this and about security systems, and it turns out the person was from Mendon, Mass. So I called him, and he said that it was hard to find someone to quote on it. They have a system they put in. It's $20,000. It's a camera system, but they do have a small building that they are able to use, and it's Wi-Fi based, but they had to use a small building. But very interestingly, I thought was that he said that the CPC paid for his system. So it's not that our CPC will pay for the system, but they've set the precedent that it can be paid for through CPC. So I thought that was interesting.
That CPC can pay for a security system?
Yeah, Mendon.
Wow.
So, if it's preserving they can put in an irrigation system. It's the CPC. The law is broad, but it is, and again, it's not that our commission would vote to do that, but I bring it up because if Mendon has use the funding to do that, then the precedent has been set in the state to use money for that type of item. Doesn't mean that our community preservation committee will agree, but I just thought I'd bring it up. So anyway, I was going to get back with Ron Raleigh from Q-Star Technology and ask more about that. Ask about getting a demo and such. I've also asked Scott Bragdon about the grant money from MIIA, our insurance company. There's about $5,000. He said that DPW's interested in about $2,000 of it to use it for something. He didn't go into details. So that would presumably say that there's $3,000 available for our system, for whatever we want to do, whether it be lighting or this. I asked him, I'd sent him an email last week. He was out, but he did get back to me this morning asking him if he could check with our insurance company to see if they had any experience with different systems, because I thought that would be a good place to start. And they said they didn't have any, they didn't, but this looked like a good system. Again, I will pursue other recommendations and such and
Sure.
references, but that's where I stand with everything. Jim made the recommendation at the last meeting to look at solar. This happens to be solar. I do think pursuing some sort of solar lighting is also a great idea. It's, one of the more expensive parts of putting in the light is running the wire. And I forgot one other, I made a phone call to Island Lighting, which is in Norfolk. They do sports lighting, and they do security lighting and such. So I called them. I haven't heard back again. I was out for a while on vacation, but I called them, and I'm sure they'll get back to me. Because one of the things I was thinking that is, it's all very close to the baseball field, the Little League field, and there's been some discussion about putting in lights to play baseball at night, which would actually, soccer, the fields are overused, but baseball fields, that's not the issue. We could extend the time and increase the usage by putting in lights. And so I thought, well, maybe we can pursue putting in a pole in the same place that eventually may be used for lighting to light the field. So we would maybe save money down the line if we were ever to light the Little League field. And maybe we could use that now for a security light. So.
May I?
Thoughts, recommendations? Yes.
Probably questions that have been asked, but I'm just trying to catch up. Do you have funding for any of this indifferent to CPC?
We have some money in the field maintenance, and if there was money for, through the grant that our insurance company, it looks like we have about
You don't have it
$3,000.
in the account now to sustain that kind of investment?
We would have money depending on the cost, if it's $6,000 and we have, we would have $3,000 in the field maintenance account we could use if it's protecting the fields.
Okay.
Yeah, we do.
Couple questions, okay. If you're thinking about lighting that ball field, you've got to involve the neighbors and public hearings and all that good stuff. I mean, just so you know,
I'm not
it's a long
suggesting
way
that
away.
we're lighting the ball field now. I'm just suggesting that if we are going to put in a pole, and a pole can be put in a place where in the future, if we ever lit the ball field, we could use that pole, so we don't have to put in another pole. That's all. I was just going to talk to you about placement.
I don't know the system, but I can tell you that the police chief would tell you that security cameras are the greatest deterrent. More than lights, more than
Yep.
alarms, more than anything.
Yep.
Security cameras seem to be the best deterrent. So you've done some great research on it. Thank you. It
Well,
seems like a viable alternative.
So, the Freeman has Wi-Fi there. Could you do any sort of like the ADT home security systems that run off of the Wi-Fi at Freeman?
You mean at in the school? So I'm trying to.
Cameras, I have one. I have a security system around my house, cameras. They're okay, but you're not going to identify anybody. You can tell someone was there. I mean, maybe somebody that's really good at looking
Could
at this and
Unless they
I
get
guess the
close to the
question is
camera.
because they're,
They'd have to be pretty close to the
Yeah,
camera.
they'd have to
Could
be
it
pretty
trigger
close.
a light though?
well,
Or alert the police if something were to trip?
so let me.
You've got animals that could trip it too. That's the
Right,
problem.
well, yeah. So a couple of things. The advantage of Freeman Kennedy is that there's a shed there. So there's something that we can put equipment inside, and that we have Wi-Fi. So let's talk to Mike Yang about sort of the logistics and the setup of the system. And then I think would have to pursue what kind of camera we use. In Mendon, one of the things, even though they spent about $20,000, he said, the camera's so-so. But perhaps there are other cameras. Perhaps there's something else. Now, in Mendon, he also said it was hard to get someone to quote the job. He said there was one person, and I don't think he does, and he said he didn't think you did a really great job. But most people came back and said this is way out of our expertise. But that doesn't mean there isn't someone else out there. So,
Cameras may be a good deterrent, but that's exactly what they went for when they hit the shed at the softball. There
yeah,
was
they
two
knocked him out.
Fake cameras. Well, I say fake. They were ran on batteries, which they probably haven't changed in 10 years, whatever. Two cameras
they were
that were
kinda-
there, those were smashed
Yeah.
to pieces. So if we're gonna look at putting cameras in, we need to have some type of vandal-proof type
They,
camera.
they really need to be high on a pole. And one of the other things that I had in the National Park and Rec Connect forum, I'd read, someone had added, put your camera on a wood pole so they don't get hit by the lightning. So
makes sense.
it does make sense, or you at least have a surge protector, so you make sure, because Lord, I can't speak of cameras, but I can certainly tell you that the well at Pond Street has been hit probably 3 times because of the metal, and things do get hit. So, or a tall tree. I mean, they're not going to, if you take the branches off, it's really hard to climb a tall tree, although there's some people that can do it. Not many.
I mean,
Okay.
So, but it is an advantage having an indoor setup there. I'm sure they would let us put the setup in there. So let me talk to Mike Yang and follow up with that. And then I'll follow up with Island Lighting too and see what
Okay.
they have.
And we also get a demo from,
Yep. And if anyone,
US stuff.
and he'll do it at any time. So if anyone's around and wants to see it, if there's a time that people prefer me to set it up for, I can do that.
thank you. Any other questions, discussion?
No, sounds good, Ann.
Okay, so I know that Ron Bain will probably want to know about our evaluation of these quotes, but I think that I just need to say to him that we're still in the process of looking at
Investigating.
alternative, best suited alternatives.
All right, moving on. Reserving the pavilion and other non-field spaces. And you had some information that you wanted to talk about on this? And I know we still need to get together.
I did. So the reserving of the pavilion, we've talked about this a few different times. So most of the reserving of the pavilion is the sports groups that are doing the beginning of the year activities or the end of the year activities, and it's mostly the pavilion at Pond Street. However, once in a while, groups come in and say, we on the smallest scale, it's a birthday party, but it's usually not. People might call and say, it's a birthday party. We're going to play basketball for an hour. I say, go ahead and do it. Just that's not. I'm more concerned when there's going to be someone bringing in a grill or excessive trash or use of electricity. Then it can start to add up. And also, and especially the trash. If they're going to have 25 or 30 people, those trash barrels get filled up quickly, and then the people using it for the next 2 days, are dealing with flies and bugs and no place to put trash. I thought we could come up with some sort of schedule to use, to how to charge people to use the pavilion. I mean, I think birthday parties, and I've looked at different, all over, different, from Florida to Plainville, I call it Plainville, to all different places. And some sort of have the limit at like 15. If it's going to be, 16 or more, then there's a $25 an hour charge or a $15 an hour charge, or you make sure that they take their own, they take their own trash. Plainville charges $15 an hour, assuming there's no electricity being used. If there's electricity being used, there's an additional $50 fee. So their fees have changed since I spoke to their commissioner probably a couple years ago. Time goes by way too fast for me. But they also have a breaker. They can shut the electricity on and off. There is a panel there, but I don't have access to it. I mean, I suppose I could, but maybe
It's not easy.
It's not easy. But maybe, in fact, the power should be off all the time rather than on. Now, if we put in a light that you run electricity, then you don't want to do that. But so those are possibilities. The other call that we get is if people can have birthday parties at the Rockwood Road Playground. And I'm really not sure what to say to that. It's a open playground, and I think a birthday party there is great. We do have tables and picnic tables. Again, my concern is really trash and people sort of consuming the use of the playground. So I thought I would speak to you and see how you feel about it. Most of the parties, we actually have a call in just the other day about it, and it would be a party on a weekend. It's working parents. It's a Saturday party, so maybe we reserve party time to a specific time of the Saturday mornings from 9 to 11. Or if you want to have a party, you have it at that time, and the rest of the time, it's not a reserved kind of, maybe we don't reserve it, but we just ask people to restrict parties to that time, because other people, when they go, it's a little uncomfortable. You don't want to necessarily break into a party, and it's a busy place. And sometimes I think that person was going to have 20 people.
Right.
It was 20 people.
That's a lot.
It's a lot for.
Like 20 kids, and then the parents are
Exactly. It was
there,
not
and
a
siblings
daycare.
that come.
She was inviting children from her child's daycare.
Right, so it's not a small amount. I mean, honestly, if you have a 4-year-old, I think the rule I remember is if you have a party for a 4-year-old and it's a children's party, you have 4 kids. 5-year-old, 5 kids. That's sort of the appropriate amount. But when you're having a larger party and you're inviting families and parents, the numbers add up quickly. Mm-hmm. And then the costs that we assume, because recreation through our revolving account, we take care of Pond Street other than mowing. So we take, and the DPW does trash pickup, but I don't want to, if we need more trash barrels or if we need some sort of signage, just wanted to get your input. How would you feel if you went and there was a birthday party there, or we can respectfully request that we don't congregate for parties. Or they're only on weekdays. I mean, there are lots of different possibilities.
I mean, first come, first serve. If it's a party of 12 or more and they let you know, you could charge them a fee, but I don't think you can close it down
No.
to other people, and then they'd have to just get there an hour early and set up.
So one of the things I don't want, I really, I don't want to reserve, I'm uncomfortable reserving things. I don't want to reserve that playground. The other thing that we need to consider is that there are people from other towns that use the playground, and the people that are calling for birthday parties are also, could very well be from other towns. So that's another thing to consider.
Well, I'm always of the belief that when you have things like this, they're public facilities, and they're for the public, and we shouldn't be charging, and, we should be
Yeah.
glad we have them and let everybody use them.
Right.
So I'm inclined not to want to charge anybody for what we provide. I mean, other than classes and things of that nature, but to go play in a playground, I just
Right,
doesn't seem right.
and it's not so much that I'm looking to charge them, it's more that what the policy is. If you're having a party, or if you're, we can post a sign, if you're having more than 20, it's really how to
Well,
manage it.
Maybe that's another way to get at it, is just to say that we would prefer, I'm kind of with you, I'm not for reserving. I don't think you can ever kind of have the public out of there. But maybe you could just say that we only, I don't know what a usable number is. I mean, I know my grandkids use it a lot. I don't know what the number is. Maybe it's 12 people, 14 people, 6. You guys may know better than me as to what's an appropriate number, but just say that you restrict birthday parties to a certain number. I mean, that's
Well, we
not an
could say-
unreasonable thing to do.
Right, that's what, so again, I'm thinking if,
I don't think 4 flies anymore,
right, no, again, and that, I wouldn't expect anyone to even tell us about that type of size
Yeah.
of birthday party. Anything under, 10 or so, it's really part of the group. But when you start to have 20, or when you start to have 25 people,
That's
you're
tough on
really
that.
starting to consume the
There's enough room
parking
there to do that.
places, and there's definitely an increase in trash, and that's really, it's the management of that. It's not that I don't want to have it, it's just that how do we go about managing it? What do we ask people to do? So maybe we can ask people of any group, planning to meet greater than 12, please be in contact with the recreation office.
I don't know if that's the right number.
Right,
I'm
and
just picking
I
a
guess I'm
number.
just trying to sort of, and maybe I can sort of try to think about the number a little bit.
And what about taking their trash with them? And then there wouldn't be any added.
We could ask them to do that, yeah.
You have
Yeah,
to do
it's just
that at the
most people
beach,
would do
too.
Yeah, yeah. We have trash barrels, but but again, if you have a party of 20,
Yeah, that gets a
all of
little
a sudden, the
overwhelming.
trash barrel is full, and it stays full because DPW doesn't know there's been a party, and they don't know they would pick it up, but if we don't know, then they don't, obviously.
How big an issue is the out-of-town issue? Is that, I mean, you have to be careful because people, we're very close to Rhode Island, and people have relatives in
Oh,
Rhode
yeah, no.
Island. So this could be a grandmother, or grandfather, or
Right.
aunt, uncle,
Oh.
cousin that just happens to have Rhode Island plates visiting their daughter.
Yeah, no, I do think it is a destination playground. We do get calls from out of town people asking for directions, asking for hours, we do.
That's
but
a
you're
good thing, too.
It is, but you're absolutely right. There are people that have relatives in town. I think of when my kids were little. I used to go to Millis, and I used to meet someone that I was friends with in another
playground.
town. It was sort of halfway there. So I wouldn't expect that to not happen.
So it's really
But I
not-
think it's a
not
little
big
bit,
problem.
I think it's a little bit tricky and only if we were going to reserve something, to reserve an area for people from out of town versus, I think that we would have to look at that if we were going to reserve it. But if we're not, then we don't have to think about it. I'm more comfortable not reserving space.
Me too.
So, other than, really large activities for for the Lions soccer and things like that, then I think you reserve the space. It's not the playground, it's the pavilion at Pond Street, and people are still using the playground.
Well, I took a look at a bunch of different towns, and depending on the towns themselves and what facilities they have, I mean, we have sizable facilities, but there are other towns with even bigger facilities or what have you, and they actually have quite lengthy agreements, applications, the whole 9 yards.
And they
For
post it,
instance,
and they have staff to post that it's reserved and from what time to time, and I really I did tell Todd that was one thing that I was
I was going to say,
uncomfortable doing, because, what if I'm out and I don't post, it's like, I don't want
if
to,
we come up with policies and procedures to say, this is closed, this is open, or whatever, then it becomes an administrative problem as well, because how do you monitor that, make sure it's done right when the party's done, if things need to be picked up or whatever. So, again, I think, if somebody's asking you, I'd like to reserve the pavilion because I'm having 100 people, that's a one-off. And you'll say, come back to the board, we have a party that wants to do 100, we can obviously figure out pricing at that particular point or what have you, but, I mean, you haven't gotten a request, you've gotten birthday parties, but I don't think,
we have actually gotten requests, and I've charged them, depending on the size, $50 or $100.
okay.
It depends if they use electricity.
Yeah.
We don't shut it off. I've asked about grills. And also, one of the issues at Pond Street would be if they can bring things in. So that, and at one point it came up as a discussion, and we added to the field allocation, because it was not just, it was all the allocation, that only gas grills, and I covered that with Chief Bushnell,
Yep.
no charcoal, because we had someone who wanted to bring in a big charcoal grill, and I was like, what are you going to do with those charcoals when you're done? So we changed
That's
that.
cool.
And we have, sometimes it's a daycare. One time, and a couple of times, it's been the au pairs coming in for the year. We've had Montessori schools. And again, they're more than, they're more than lovely when they call, they want to do whatever we ask them to do. So I think maybe I can come up with a list of, as long as I know your feelings about reservations and reserving things and such, I think incorporating that into something that's reasonable to pay for electricity and such if needed. I'm going to say no inflatables at Pond Street. Like, people have said, can I bring a bouncy house? The answer is going to be no, only because of insurance, really. We have to, when we get one, we actually have to have we really only do inflatable slides, not actual trampoline type items. And we actually have to get an insurance binder signed off. So I think Scott Bragdon would be very happy if we said no to inflatables. So why don't I, knowing what your input, I think we can probably come up with a list. And I can have that for the next meeting.
All right.
How's that?
If it helps, this is Town of Randolph.
Thanks. It always helps,
Pricing
absolutely.
between the nonprofit and
That's
for
great,
profit, so
yeah.
to give you a basis
Yep,
as far as dollars.
thank you.
Okay, moving on. Anything else?
No,
On the reserve in the pavilion? No?
I don't think so.
Okay. Field court updates? I'll let you start.
Okay, so the fields, the last time we met, we were planning to have the fields fertilized, grub control, and weed control. However, we had a little bit of, I was gonna say a little bit of a hot spell. We had a hot spell. And the Freeman Kennedy fields it became brown and stressed in that hot spell, so not a good time to apply fertilizer or grub control. I spoke to DPW and Justin at DPW and asked him about Pond Street, and there are in the past, what we would do is weed control, but usually earlier in the summer, and then we would seed. So we do have some weeds. It's mostly grass, though. But we do have some weeds. But we've decided that we're going to not do weed control. We will do actually, the weed control is the very cold weather at the end of in November. That takes care of the weeds. But we will do, instead of doing weed control and seeding now, we will let the cold weather take over at the end of November, and then we will do a dormant seeding and turf covers. So we will do it. So that's what we will do at most the areas that have wear at Pond Street, and so we'll assess that after the fall season. So that's the weed control. Pond Street was fertilized and there was grub control. We don't have a lot of grub issues, but it was less than $300 to do all of Pond Street and the football field, so we opted just in case, because sometimes you don't know. We did the grub control. At Freeman Kennedy, the small Little League field was fertilized and there was grub control put down. That's field 8, the one that's closest with the netting, the one that's closest to the Boardman Street. And also the football field was, because there's some irrigation on that, it was a little less stressed, so we did do fertilization there, which was really needed. It's going to get a lot of use, so it really needed to have a fertilization. So now that we've had a couple of nights of rain, it's sort of been a cycle. Already Freeman Kennedy's greening up again. It's really, the fields are amazing. I mean, they do go dormant when there isn't a lot of rain, but they come right back. And they're already coming back. So we'll probably proceed and do a fertilization and perhaps a grub control, depending on how late and we'll probably, so a fertilization we'll probably do, if I can get it done on the Friday before Labor Day, we will do that. It's 4 days. Fertilization, you don't need to close fields. There's nothing, but if you do a grub control, you need to have it kids not present. So the only day they don't have school on a Friday before Labor Day, so that's a 4-day window. It's the only window that we would have. But if we can't do the grub control, I think there might be a few grubs by the very little softball field, the little baby softball field, the little cuties that play. The bats are bigger than them. But I've seen some birds over there. But other than that, we're all set.
Okay. Clearing along the wood line?
I sent an email to Tom Benedetti. So I heard from Joe Zana. Joe works for the high school, but he also does, so he's involved, he gets in contact with us because the high school uses the Field H for practices, and then he also does, separately, he and his brother do lining, I think, for some of the soccer organizations. So the coach from the high school got in touch with him and mentioned that there was some overhanging branches along Field H, which is the big soccer field at Freeman Kennedy. So I actually went out this weekend, and there were a few, but it's really a very limited amount. There's some branches that can be removed at the trunk level, probably 3. And with that said, that's going to take care of any overhanging branch. I actually cut back some of the other small stuff. So, and it wasn't really very much, and it's actually kind of nice that there's some shade, but there were a couple of branches that were a little bit low, so if you had a really tall player, running a little bit off the field, they might, it might be questionable. So limited amount. So they should take, I haven't heard back. I don't know if Tom's been in today, and again, I just sent the email, so, I sent it, I don't know, one day recently. So I should hear back, and then, and I have to apologize. This is the first day back from vacation, so I haven't followed up on the irrigation, but,
Okay. I
have
do
you looked at
something-
Field
I
C?
have something for you on that.
Okay,
Joe Zana recommended
okay,
for irrigation to actually do commercial, so I'll get
Okay.
that. I forgot that at home, sorry.
it's okay.
Review any fall allocation issue that falls on my shoulders. I did the fall allocation, sent that out to all the different organizations. Of course, everybody's, I'll refrain on my comment, but everybody wants more space. We just don't have. So I'm actually in conversation tonight at 8:30 with a couple of the organizations to try and figure out a couple of the practice times. Games, everything seems to be all set. As far as all the organizations, just falls within certain days for some organizations needing particular fields, especially with the high school. If the high school, on a going forward basis from this point forward, with the turf fields going in, our fields should start to lighten up in the fall because they'll be utilizing the turf field at the high school. Unfortunately, this year, the high school turf field is scheduled to be done mid-October. So that puts them for a month and a half, at least on our fields. But after that month and a half, once the field is done, so says the athletic director at the high school, that they'll move back over to the high school, and that'll free up a lot of the fields. So we had that small little month and a half window of a little bit of pain with the high school, but not too bad. And just we have a couple more organizations obviously looking for more fields that can, because they don't want to go to rent them or they don't want to go to this particular town. So they reach out to us and we try and accommodate as much as we can on a priority basis. Norfolk organizations first, Norfolk and the three-town organizations second, and then outside organizations third. So once that's done within the next day or so, finalized as far as those time slots, I'll work with Ann, we'll get them posted. We're going to post it up at Pond Street and also at the Freeman. That way, if there's any confusion, people can just walk over and say, no, we have a field, or no, the field is actually yours at this particular time. So that'll be done the next day, I think. Any questions on that? No? Okay. Moving on to item number 8, fall programming updates.
So I hope you all received the fall brochure in the mail. That's always I get to go on vacation when that's done. So the brochure has been mailed to everyone. It's being entered online. Kathy's does that. I will have a PDF. I actually meant to do that today, and just saying it out loud, I realized I didn't do it today. So I'll have a PDF on on our website soon. We have a few new classes, but we have our sort of our perennial favorites as well. But we have a couple of new ones. I'll be interested. We have one called Kids for Math, and Ann Peasy is teaching it. Ann was a classroom teacher for many, many years, and also the math curriculum person at Freeman Kennedy. And she's also her first. She's been our drama teacher for years. Anne actually has a musical theater background. She actually started musical theater at Franklin School of Performing Arts, I was going to say centuries ago, but if she's listening, she'll kill me if I say that.
Last year.
Right, last year. So she loves that part, and she loves working with younger kids. So she's working on getting for math readiness. And I'm kind of I kind of love math. So I thought that was we kind of talked together about different options, and so that's one of our new programs. We have a couple of one-night kind of programs. We're bringing back Friday night dodgeball and wiffle ball for all ages. One of the older, I say older because not high school kids that works at SAC is going to be doing that. I talked to him last year about it, so we've got that on the books. So that's always a popular thing. We have some adult programs going on. We have state basics again. That was actually really well received the last couple of times we've done it. We have so attorney Amy Antonellis comes over and does it. Her Tom Antonellis, who's her father-in-law, is the person that does the birdhouses at the community day. That's very popular and brings his big RV for people to go into. So Amy comes over and does does a presentation on estate basics, but also it's free, it's at the library, and she answers any questions. And then we also are doing something new, which is, personal care products and finding out how toxic they are and talking about what's in products and such. And then again, that's a free presentation that we're doing, and it's at the library. And that's brand new, so a few new things, a lot of older perennial favorites, a little bit of a mix-up. Legos is back, always. All the
Favorites are
things.
good.
Yeah, things are great. Robotics is going well. We have robotics and, try to reach out to different people. A lot of good art programs.
Now you have to get the drone class.
I've actually thought about that. So
The what
don't let-
class?
The drone class.
Oh, yeah.
Robotics.
Yeah, I have thought about that. Isn't it? It's going to be amazing. Imagine wouldn't you love to have a picture of what's going to be going on in 20 years, like now? Wouldn't you like
Scary.
to know that now?
You might not want to know.
And I probably
think
I
it's
probably
great.
won't remember, so it'll be okay.
Me too. I have to say that.
You and I will be going, huh?
What was that?
All right, so I'm going to circle back to our first agenda item on the meeting minutes for July. Everybody had a chance to look them over?
I did.
Any
Yes,
questions, comments, concerns?
no, sounds good.
Okay, I make a motion to accept the July meeting minutes
So
as
moved.
presented. All in favor?
Aye.
I
Aye.
All right.
Can I just, on the topic of meeting minutes?
Yes.
So it's a new policy now that original minutes have to be signed by the secretary or by at the next meeting we'll appoint a clerk, so it would be the clerk. And those signed minutes are going to go to Carol Green, the town clerk, and kept on file there. So I have all of this year, we're just doing this, starting with this year's, I have this year's minutes that just need to have a signature. So at the next meeting, we'll have the June ones that you have, and then tonight's to be signed, but the rest, I just want you to sign. They're in little packages. These
Okay.
are yours, those are hers.
All right,
You could just sign the back, and then I can file them with the town clerk.
fair
Because
enough.
I have all the ones that you had given me. We don't need those?
No, these are just these are
These are just
actual,
this year's?
would-be original
Yes.
copies, and this is just this year. So he has 4 and you have 2, and I think tonight's minutes are there, and they've been approved, so you can sign the back. You can do it afterwards. And then Carol had just asked us that we get her the 2015 minutes.
And we can do that. Okay. Setting the next meeting date, going into September now. So, does the 21st work for everybody?
I cannot.
28th?
Works.
Liza?
That should be fine.
Tom?
What was the date? I'm sorry.
28th, September? Obviously, if you need vouchers signed before.
Looks good so far.
Okay. So we'll set the next meeting for September the 28th at 7 o'clock. And at this time, I'd like to adjourn this meeting. It is now, by that clock, 8:54. I'm sorry, 7:54. Otherwise, it'd be...